Today marks 1 year since 4 University of Idaho students were tragically killed, and we are continuing to honor their memory and their legacy. This morning, we're hearing from some of the student journalists who had to cover this case.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Krem 2's Amanda Rowley spoke to the reporters of the Argonaut who covered the events of the last year extensively.
The Argonaut College journalists spend their time here, writing mostly for their fellow students. But over the past year, they collectively logged more than 100 articles on the Moscow murders for a worldwide audience.
As a student journalist, you're learning on the fly.
My desk is this one. You can tell because it's got underneath this paper all the old AP stat books on it.
But for Abigail Spencer, learning this craft suddenly accelerated last November.
Not at all like anything I've ever covered before.
That's when the Argonaut's news staff began reporting on the biggest story to hit the Moscow community in years.
We're hearing reports it's more than one student, it's 4, and that they're dead.
Spencer immediately dove into journalist mode, focusing only on the facts of the case.
Every hour on the hour, I call the police station and ask for updates. It helped me stop from spiraling a lot because there was something concrete and tangible I could hold on to.
But she couldn't ignore the underlying worry for her safety as a student.
Honestly, there was a lot of fear. I lived at the time very close to the King Road house. Like, I remember my little sister said to me, "Do you think the killer's going to come after you next because you're a reporter reporting the story?" And I was terrified.
That's why she always had a fellow Argonaut reporter at her side, including former editor-in-chief Hadia Tariq.
The most I could do at a certain point was just check in with people, just talk to them.
Tariq, now reporting for the Idaho Press in Boise, recalls the difficulty in balancing being a journalist and a student during this time.
Maybe initially that wasn't difficult, but later on I think it started to take a toll where I had to realize, like, wow, I haven't processed this, have I?
She began processing those emotions the night of the vigil to honor the 4 murdered students. She chose not to attend.
And I didn't feel like I could just go as a student at that point either. I just needed a moment to take a break. I think that's when it really hit me, like, wow, this has been a lot.
But Spencer went to the vigil.
I was very careful about, like, I'm not a student right now. I'm a journalist.
She soon realized that would be harder than she expected.
Xana, Kernodle. Ethan Chapin.
I started crying and I couldn't stop.
Kaylee Goncalves. Madison, Mogen.
The lights came back up at the end of the vigil and I was like, oh, right. I have emotions, right? Those exist and I need to deal with them.
Before she did that,
I wrote several articles in this print.
Spencer reported her account of the vigil in the Argonaut's special edition.
Kneeling down through the stadium where the gongs of the bell as the name of each of the victims were read out for a moment of silence for each of them. I feel like I'm just back there. I remember trying to write it and just crying and like sitting like in this newsroom and just crying.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Meanwhile, updates on the case came in daily, but with limited information.
I think a lot of people got really frustrated with the local police department, and I shared those frustrations initially. There were points where we would ask questions and just things were not getting clarified.
News updates typically came easy for the Argonaut staff, who are embedded in the Moscow community. But as this story gained national attention, major news outlets started asking their own questions.
Gotti Schwartz, NBC News.
Ashley Soriano, Fox News.
Leaving little time for the Argonaut. But then that changed.
And I would also like to just see if there's an Argonaut reporter here. I think it's only fair to give our student reporter the first shot.
It felt like we were being recognized. It felt like they were acknowledging the impact and the importance of not only our work then, but our work as a whole publication.
This lit a fire under the Argonaut staff to prove their local voice is one the community can trust.
How do I explain this system in a way that's going to make sense to them and help them feel empowered?
Ultimately, you can come back to the Argonaut. You can trust that our journalists are doing their best to cover this as accurately as they can.
So let's start with the Argonaut, please.
The work you do really matters, and I'd like to think we proved that last year.
Amanda Rowley, Krem 2 News.